but one of the most important has been to advocate for women, especially our staff women, because I got to do lots of incredible things, but I saw other women who didn't. And then as I traveled the world, I saw women who didn't think they could or should do the things they were gifted to do. And I'm like saying, you know, if God's given you the gifts, he has ways he wants to use it. It might be very different from somebody else. It doesn't all look the same, but God gives you gifts for the kingdom, for the people you influence, for your family, everybody. And so that began efforts to open doors. The first people I had to help convince were the women, not so much in the U.S., but in a lot of places around the world. You couldn't convince them that they could use greater gifts than they thought. And yet we went around and we helped them open their eyes, just what you all have been doing.
Welcome to the Eden Podcast, where we true the verse of Genesis 3:16, and we discover that God didn't curse Eve or Adam or limit woman in any way. In a moment, I'm going to invite Judy to come forward here to receive the Medallion Award, but before we do that, I would like to, and Bruce, you can get the blue box ready with that special something. So we have asked Judy to give us a full response to receiving this honor today, but first I would like to read to you the inscription on the Medallion Award. It says, True 316 Medallion Award, presented to Judy Douglas for your lifetime of ministry excellence and advancement of the True 316 message. By the True 316 Foundation on 316 Day 2025. Judy, would you come forward to receive this? Oh, I want to honor you, Judy.
You want to take that out for us?
Okay. I dropped things too.
I'm a fumble finger guy, so I want you to just lift it right out. There we go.
So it's not a medallion you hang around your neck?
No. Well, you could. You could.
Maybe you can hold it up for the
There we go.
camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth has to get a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll put it back.
Give that to Elizabeth.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so how does one stand up and talk and let's see. I just need it a little lower. It's not moving very well. Oh, that shows you wouldn't think I'd ever spoken before. Thank you. Okay, that's good. We laughed a little so that, thank you. Thank you. Bruce and Joy, I have loved what you're doing, and I've loved to tell people about it. And I'm delighted to have you here as our guests. And I'm honored and overwhelmed by the kind words that you've said. Thank you. Andrea, I love you. Andrea and I have had many long conversations and fought together and kind of made life hard for my husband together. I think what I want to do mainly is say thank you. One of the main lessons that I've had in my life of walking with God is to give thanks in everything. I keep trying to tell my grandchildren that. They're not quick to learn on it, but we're working on it. But so I think that's what I'll do is give a few specific thanks. And actually, between what Andrea said and what Joy read and what the picture said, there's nothing more for me to say, really, so no, except thank you, but I'll try. So I am from Texas, and obnoxiously so. And I won't go into that because I could tell a whole lot of stories. My daddy was a doctor, and he wasn't a warm, friendly person, but here's what I could tell you about him. He believed in me. He was always telling me, you can do anything you want. And so I believed him. And then when I met Jesus and decided what I wanted was to follow Jesus, he wasn't too happy. But by the time he moved to heaven, he had come to know him. So I want to give a shout out to the ministry of Young Life, because I had a friend, her name was Patty, who said, come go to this Young Life Christmas ski camp. You'll meet cute boys and learn to ski. Now, does that sound like a good thing? Yes, it does. So I said, sure, let's go. And we got to ride a train from Dallas to Colorado, and it was awesome. And I learned to ski, sort of. I mainly learned at the bottom to sit down because I never got the traversing down. So there, the speaker, his name was Tom Taylor. I remember it still because it was very important. You know, we did fun things all day, and we listened to talks about Jesus and what he'd done for us in the evening. And so he's talking. Oh, I didn't tell you the most important thing first. Since I was born, I wanted my own way. My kids, not my kids, my sisters and my parents said, yeah, all the time. So Tom Taylor's giving the message on the last night of the Young Life Camp, and he says, Jesus not only wants to come into your life and forgive your sins and provide a way for you to go to heaven, he wants to show you his better plan for your life. And I went, his what? You mean God has a better plan for me than I do? And I said 4 words in response to that, which have guided my life, the rest of my life, which is a long one. Those words were, I choose your way. I choose your way, Lord. I want your better plan for my life. Over and over and over, God has said, do this, don't do this, come here. And I'm like, no, no, no. And then I said, okay, I choose your way. I'm also very thankful to the University of Texas because of 2 things. One, I learned much more about writing and editing and doing what ended up to be a major part of what God had for me to do. But I also ran into this ministry, Campus Crusade for Christ. And at the end of my first semester, I'd realized I wasn't really walking with the Lord, and I was dating a non-Christian, and well, I wasn't doing what I thought I would do, which was tell people about Jesus. And so I said, Lord, help. And I said, I need some people who will encourage me in my walk with God and some training. And how in the world do you live this life, really? And so I went back to campus, and I saw a girl from my dorm that seemed more spiritual than most. I said, how would you like to start a Bible study? She said, sure, let's do that. And so we were going to, she says, you know, I just met Jesus. I said, oh? And she said, through this girl with this ministry that she showed me how to know Christ. And so she said, would you like to meet her? Well, yes, I would. Well, as it turns out, I'd actually met her. She'd come to a Young Life thing one time. And her name was Carol. And she showed me the 4 spiritual laws. I said, oh, I could actually tell people about Jesus with that. And she said, yeah. And then she said, would you like to come to our training institute that we have? I said, sure. And I learned how to use the 4 laws. I learned how to be filled with the Spirit and walk in the Spirit as a way of life. It was just an amazing experience for me. And then all through college, I was involved with Campus Crusade. There's too many names, and I was on actual student staff the last 2 years, and then I was going to graduate, and I was engaged to this young man I had sort of led to Jesus, and the Lord said, "I want you to join Campus Crusade staff." And I went, "Sure." So I said to Bob, "We're going to join Campus Crusade staff." And he said, "I'm not." I said, "Yes, that's what God wants." And he says, "Not me." So I argued all night with him, and I said, "What do you want to do, Lord? What am I supposed to do? You're calling me to join Campus Crusade staff, which was that would mean giving up my fiance and also giving up my dream to write and edit a magazine." And the Lord said, "Yep, pretty much." And so I finally, at the end of that night, said, "I choose your way." And I called Bob and broke my engagement. And I went out to Arrowhead Springs to join Campus Crusade full-time. And Bill Bright called me in his office. And he said, "You have a journalism degree." I said, "I do." And he said, "Well, we have this magazine we've started for college students. And instead of going to one campus, would you come to headquarters and work on this magazine for all the campuses?" I said, "So you're turning right around and giving me my dream to do a magazine?" And he said, "Yep, that's it." Okay, I won't go into any more of those stories because they could, I can tell stories forever. But that's what I did. And God, because I was first in publications, first person there to be doing it except for the artists that I worked with, I got to do anything and everything. I was editor, then I was editorial director for everything Crew did, and then I was in charge of publications. And this man said, "How did you get that job?" I said, "Seniority." And there I was, 29 years old, and by that time. I just never have gotten over what God says. "I'll show you my better way for you." And I'm just like, "Wow, Lord." And that included Mary and Steve Douglas, which was a long wait. And when I got tired of waiting and everyone said, "Give up on him," I said, "All right, Lord, I'm done. He's never going to get married. I'm done." And the Lord said, "No, Judy, don't quit. Wait." And I went, I'm tired of waiting. And he says, "Don't quit, Judy." So I said, okay, 2 more years. That added up to 5 years. He was so worth waiting for. And the opportunities that God had for me as a result of that just expanded. And it was an amazing thing. And I still can't get over the life that I've had. Watching those pictures, it was like I went to each one of those places again. And that was Corrie ten Boom I was interviewing, by the way. I just was amazed. And I have a number of things that I say are the main things that God's given me. But one of the most important has been to advocate for women, especially our staff women, because I got to do lots of incredible things, but I saw other women who didn't. And then as I traveled the world, I saw women who didn't think they could or should do the things they were gifted to do. And I'm like saying, if God's given you the gifts, he has ways he wants to use it. It might be very different from somebody else. It doesn't all look the same, but God gives you gifts for the kingdom, for the people you influence, for your family, everybody. And so that began efforts to open doors. The first people I had to help convince were the women, not so much in the U.S., but in a lot of places around the world. You couldn't convince them that they could use greater gifts than they thought. And yet we went around and we helped them open their eyes, just what you all have been doing. And so what an incredible privilege. And now, again, seeing those pictures, listening to Andrea's amazingly kind words, thinking about my wonderful husband, who was, without a doubt, my biggest cheerleader. Now, he would die if you told him all these things. Oh, he did, I know. But all these things that were being said about, if they were about him, he would just be no, because he didn't ever like that. But he, on the other hand, would be so glad that you said them about me, because he just was my biggest cheerleader. He really thought I could do anything. That was not true. But it's so worth it. And so thank you for this. And I hope that for each person here, if you're still here, God's still got a plan. And sometimes I'm about to turn 81, and people say, aren't you going to quit? And I went, no, God's not through. I don't know what else he has for me. I'm staying a little busy, but that's true for us. It's true for every woman. God has plans, ways he wants to use her. And they won't all look the same at all, but he has plans. And so I just want to say thank you for this, but don't quit encouraging people to believe God that he wants to work in them and through them to build his kingdom. Thank you. Thank you, Diane. So out at the back, there's a bunch of books. I think they're all for sale, except for this little book, which is called You Are a Work of Art. And this is kind of something I wrote up that's a condensation of a lot I've learned. And they're there free for you to pick one up.
True 316 Foundation is the home of the Eden podcast. Join us for $3.16 a month or more. Let's true the verses on the key passages on women and men. Go to true316.com/partner. True 316 is strengthening and encouraging many, and we're getting stories every day of lives changed through our ministry. We're the home of the Eden podcast, and we're getting the word out that God didn't curse Eve or Adam or limit woman in any way. Our volunteer help is wonderful, and we grow stronger with each new true partner who gives to the True 316 Foundation so that we can cover the costs to do the technical work of the Eden podcast, to coordinate our True School workshops like the 2-week Eden workshop on Genesis 2 and 3, and to make the True 316 Foundation function in its outreach to scholars and students around the world. You can give now with a one-time gift. And better still, you can join now and become a monthly donor. We call our monthly donors our true partners. Please join now by going to true316.com/partner.